Hey guys, it's Sierra. Today we're going to paint a donut. So if you found me on here, you probably purchased a Painting Essentials watercolor kit. So I went ahead and emptied out everything, set it out, got my water and my paper towel, and then let's begin. So first I'm going to just use my big round brush, size 8. I'm going to get it nice and wet in here, kind of dry it out a little bit, do it one more time. Make sure that if it's brand new, it will definitely be stiff, so you need to move it around, loosen it up. I always do this at the beginning anyways, because then if I have color left over from my last painting, then it will be nice and clean. Okay, so today I was thinking that we would do a chocolate donut. And so if you find your watercolor kit, there's a brown right here. I typically take my wet brush, move it around, and I actually kind of go like over here on this pan because I like to see what color it is, see if it's the right color, if I'm gonna have to mix it up or not. But today I'm just gonna use this flat brown because it just is the perfect chocolate color for me. So I am going to take the brush, start with my tip here, and kind of move it around. I am going to go around all the sprinkles because I'm gonna actually add in color. For the future, you can get like a little masking gum and put it around, and that makes it really easy. But for now, we're just gonna paint all the way around. If you use the tip of your brush, you'll find that it has a point, so it's easy to do a really skinny line. And then the harder you push, then the more spread out it will be. So depending on if you want a really dark brown or a light brown, you can add more water. More water will make your color obviously lighter. More paint will make it darker. I typically love to see the mixture of colors, dark and light, and all like the cauliflower type vibe in the watercolor because it just gives it that texture and, I don't know, uniqueness. And if you find that your watercolor is drying a lot over here, see the lines, you just go around it and kind of rub it out a bit and there will be no lines. So I'm just going to continue to do that. Keep getting more paint as I go and fill it in. And you'll see that it'll start to come together, look like some chocolate frosting. And if you prefer to do this in a different color, that's totally up to you. It would go the same way. You can always mix your colors how you like it. I typically mix a lot of my colors. I know some people don't like to and they just get different colors, but I am your typical mixer of colors. Anyways, so I'm just gonna continue to do this for a minute. Get it all nice and mixed in. And again, if you find yourself that you have a dried line, just add more water and move your brush around a bit and it will work its way out. I also like to leave a little bit of space around the sprinkle. You could fill all the way to the black line, but I just prefer, just for the look of things, I think it's fun to leave a little space, white space around it. Okay, so now I have my chocolate done. Super easy, right? I'm gonna let this layer dry and then we'll go back in and add some more dark. But for now, we are going to start painting the outside of the donut. So I am again gonna use a brown, but this time I'm gonna mix this little bit of a yellow. I know it looks kind of green, but it is more of a yellow ochre kind of color. So add in a little more. And then because I want this to be so light, I'm gonna add a lot of water. So I wanna make sure my brush is super wet and then add in some of that pigment from the watercolor, then kind of get some of the water off here. And I'm gonna use the tip of my brush because this is really thin right here. And I'm gonna lightly do it. Start painting around it and fill in the blanks here. It's okay that it'll be really light at first. I like to typically work in layers because then it's easy to fix. If you do it too dark, the beauty of watercolor is you can add more water to it. And then if If you ever messed up, you could rip off a piece of your watercolor, or sorry, your paper towel and dab it, and it would take some of the pigment away. So I feel like watercolor is very forgiving in that way. So I did my first little layer here, and I'm actually going to add some darkness to the edges just to give it a little more depth. Like this. Okay, now my chocolate pretty much dried really fast, which is awesome. So I'm going to go back to brown, get quite a bit of brown here, and get it a little bit darker. And I'm just going to go around the middle here and kind of add in some darkness, because you know the middle of the donut right there is a little bit of a shadow. And I'm going to get my brush wet, and I'm going to kind of spread it just a little bit with water around. And then I'm going to do the same again with some of these edges. I just feel like there's no wrong way to do this. You can do it however you want. And watercolor, I know a lot of people feel like it's daunting, but I actually feel like it's one of the most forgiving because it's so easy to just like move the paint around, the water around. Add more water if you need it lighter. You can dab it with your paper towel if you feel like it was too much. You can let it dry and add another layer. So it just kind of depends. So while that is drying, I am going to grab my tiny little brush here, and I've never used this brush before yet, so mine's kind of hard, so I need to get it wet with water, make sure it's ready, and I kind of twist it like this to make sure the point is still really there. And then get a little more wet, and I'm going to use this red color for my sprinkles, and a little bit of pink. You can do whatever color you want. I just feel like I like pink, so why not give it pink sprinkles? So fun. And I'm just going to take the very tip of my brush. So you want to be careful not to have too much water in your brush, because if you touch the paper with too much water, it will go all over the place. And when doing tiny details with a tiny brush, you want to make sure it's not having too much water, but enough to not have it dry. Okay, so now I'm going to just kind of color in here. And if you have wet paint around like I do, you want to make sure that you're not touching the wet paint of the brown, otherwise it will bleed into your other color. So I typically find ones that aren't around wet paint and fill them in. And then the ones that are around the wet paint, I just go really slowly and carefully do it. But you know, if it bleeds, then it does, and that's fine. It just gives it a little character. So there we go. Some sprinkles. All right, and then I'm gonna kind of go back. I'm gonna still use my small brush, and I'm just gonna make it a little bit darker around the edges of the donut, just to kind of give it a little depth more. And just like a little line around the black line. So I know this black line is printed out for you, but I typically would draw this image, paint it, and then use my micron and draw these black lines after. You could also draw the lines before if you prefer that. And if you're just learning and you want to trace an image first, then trace it, fill it in with the micron, and then wait for it to dry, make sure it's all dry, and then start painting it over it. And that is like a great way to begin and start learning how to do things. So I'm going to go back and get a little more pink red color that I have, just add in another little layer on the sides here. Okay. And the inside right here, there is a little bit of the donut part, the bread part underneath, so I kind of gave in some of that. So there you have it. There's your super simple, easy donut, and you can't forget to take your micron and sign your name at the bottom or wherever you like. Put your signature, and there you have it. that's it. Thanks guys for watching, and if you don't have one of my painting essential kits, we will link it below, and we can't wait for you guys to join us for the next video.